time where we're really pacifying this really aggressive type of energy, and we're doing it with this power of water, right? So we wake up in late autumn and we have that dusting of frost all on the grass, right? So it's really cutting that fire energy very clearly. And the time of day is dawn. So if you're like me, and this is more of your family, and your basic humor, and your favorite root poison of anger, then very often, if something's bugging you, it can wake you up right at dawn, and you'll be mad about it instantly. And that's when you get up and go sit on the kitchen, okay? So the environment itself is considered very much like if you were to go all the way up to the divide, like the Rocky, or like Mount Evans is a really great example if you've ever been up there, really sharp-edged, rocky kind of place. Or if you can imagine a river that is so cold that it just feels like it's cutting you the minute you put your hand or your foot in it, same kind of energy, okay? So that's the environment that represents the Vajra. So actually, ha, ha, saying that seed syllable actually works with that particular energy of the Vajra Dakini, okay? And then we go to our sweet and loving, generous Ratna Dakini in the south, and she's yellow, and her seed syllable is Ri, and basically she represents the earth, of course, and her root poison is pride. That's her skanda, you know, her root sort of way of kind of thinking like, I'm so awesome, I'm so nourishing, I'm so beautiful, I'm so whatever, you know, I'm giving you this, shouldn't you appreciate me more, you know? But it's also this sort of feeling of lack, like there's an empty hole, there's a lack there. I need to prove myself to everyone all the time, always, because I'm never good enough, I'm never nourished enough, I can never eat enough, I can never learn enough, I can never practice enough, I can never whatever, fill in the blank enough, you know? So it's that kind of grabby, kind of, I need it, I need it, I need it. It's like a hungry ghost kind of energy where you're just not ever satisfied. And the wisdom state, when that is actually worked with, is equanimity. So Khenpo Jigme just gave those teachings last month on the four immeasurables. And he talked about the equanimity and cultivating and developing the equanimity, and how that's very, very difficult to do. And again, I'll point you in that direction. If you really want to know how to work with equanimity, work with the four immeasurables. That's a profound practice to help generate equanimity. Or give away what you're most cherishing. You know, that's a very big thing with the Tibetans, is that they will give away like their most cherished, prized possession of their family lineage when someone dies to the monastery. So I was trying to work with this the other day when my husband's in India, and I said, please see if you can find her Melong, you know, because he went for Mom's 1-year ceremony, and she was very special with a healing practice with the Melong, and I wanted to have her Melong, and that was a little bit Rana of me, but I also know that she has special healing power that she put into that for many years. And he said, I think they gave it away, and I was like, okay, let go, wanting that. So even though I was like, oh. So the Ratna, this is symbolized by the wish-fulfilling jewel. So if you've ever seen those wish-fulfilling jewels that are like vomited by the little creatures, you'll see them with like the Zambala practice. So Zambala is like really an essence of a Ratna practice, right? It's this like sort of abundance kind of thing. And so you can imagine, and even like the shape of the body, like of Zambala, he's giant, you know, it's kind of like this big guy. I think of the previous Dilgo Kensei Rinpoche. He was very Ratna in his body. He was large, he was big, he was, you know, even the previous 16th Karmapa was like that. So they're very large-boned and stately, right? And their sense perception is smell and taste. And the season is like the Indian summer, that like late summer, very early autumn, as you have this faint smell of the earth kind of coming, and things are starting to not blossom quite as furiously, and you know, the leaves might be starting to turn, and there's a cool whisper of the fall coming. And the time of day is noon. So that's when the sun is the highest. So that's, of course, the most nourishing. The sun is actually considered a nourishing thing. And so the sun being at high noon is relating to this particular Dakini principle. And the environment, of course, is like a fertile valley or like a farmland, or like if you could imagine like a tropical jungle or something that's just like teeming with life and kind of giving of bounty. That's the essence of Ratna. And so, you know, if you're feeling like you can't necessarily work so well with that sort of grasping energy, then you can literally work with that particular seed syllable. Re, 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 and work with that particular energy. So to the west is our Padma Dakini. She is red in color. She is symbolized by the lotus. And her seed syllable is ni. Ni, ni, ni. And she represents fire. And so then, of course, her time of day is sunset. And her time of season is the spring, when like that kind of fire energy is just starting to push everything up through the earth and grow it and make things kind of come and bloom. And she has a root poison of desire or attachment, craving of sensual, sexual pleasures, lust, uncontrollable longing, compulsiveness. All of those factors are very much relating to the Padma Dakini. And she's represented by a triangle that's always pointed up. So if you're familiar either with Vajrayogini practice, you'll be familiar with that, like, oh right, that red triangle. Or if you're doing Poa practice, you might see that again if there's particular Poa practice with the Dakini rather than Amitabha. And then also when you're doing particular advanced practices where you're working with the central channel, sometimes it's turned upside down because you're doing other things. So that red triangle will actually show up symbolically a lot in really high-level tantric practices. And I think that that's because we have so much desire and attachment. And from a root poison level, desire and attachment gives rise to lung, right? So you've heard me talk about this before, where desire and attachment, yes, here it's related to fire, but actually what it's doing is it's increasing our lung. It's increasing that lung energy of, like, I would say it's golem. I want it, it's mine, my precious, my precious. You know, it's like, I have to have that, you know? And it's a very fiery kind of desirous energy. You know, I want the nice house, I want the nice car, I want the nice boyfriend, I want the nice cat, I want, like, whatever. It doesn't matter. I want the nice president. You know, I mean, we all have the things that kind of really, we start to spin in our mind, and we want this. And it doesn't necessarily have to be this like sexual drive, right? It can also just be on a craving, general craving level. I want ice cream, okay? My youngest daughter, who's 2, just recently had sugar for the first time, and she got some ice cream, and she went to bed, and the next morning, the kids have been sleeping with me with my husband gone. She turns to me at like 5:30 in the morning and she goes, Mom, I really enjoyed that ice cream. Could we do that again? And that was her first thought the next morning, and I was like, oh, that is attachment. That is the most excellent example of attachment. And then throughout the day, she was like, will we have that again? I was like, yes, we will. And then we just watched the fireworks the other night, right? And then she goes, I want to see the fireworks again. So she's getting into this like 2-year-old thing where she's starting to realize that things happen and they can occur again, you know? And so she's starting to have desire about that. You know, yesterday we went to a birthday party with a bouncy house that had like a slide and you went into the water at the end or whatever. And she goes, can we go there again today? And I'm like, well, no, that was a party. So, but it's like, it's that kind of really innocent grasping is one example of how then it can become really large grasping, you know, where I really don't care about the indigenous people in South America and their tribes because we want access to their oil. Right? That's another level of grasping. Okay? So, you know, we have to really look at that energy a little bit. But when it's in its wisdom state, it's discriminating awareness. It's able to say, yeah, that ice cream tastes really good, but I don't need it right now. I'm okay without it, you know? Yes, I could have upgraded my iPhone like a year and a half ago, but it still works. It's fine. We don't need to send more cyber trash into the world. You know, so it can be really on a very basic level like that, but it can also be on a spiritual level. Like, yes, I know that that really incredible teacher is coming through. I don't necessarily need to go chase that empowerment down again. You know, I already have enough practices. You know, that's a really big one. Discriminating awareness about what you need on a spiritual level, you know, so that you realize if you have a great teacher right in front of you, do you really need to necessarily get on a plane and travel across the world? Or could you actually sit and do the practices that they're giving you already and work with them? Because if you have a guru, or you have someone who's practicing with you, or you have access to good and valid teachers, then when you get kind of stuck along the way, you go and you meet and you have a conversation and they kind of tell you what to do next and then you move along. You don't necessarily need to read the next book and go to the next training and, you know, perpetually seek, you know, meditation yoga retreats every like weekend until you attain enlightenment. You actually have to work with what you have. And so to do that, you have to have some discriminating awareness. You have to say, like, I have a valid teacher right here. These teachings are right here in front of me, and I'm not really taking them in. So that's actually really important because the sense perception is actually hearing. Okay? And you know, I think when we think about this Padma, or like this fiery kind of energy, often in Tibetan medicine we describe the body as having like a really good muscle tone. Like that person's very muscular. It doesn't mean they're like the Hulk or anything, but it just means they're very toned and there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of heat in their body. So if you've ever done body work with people who are more fire-like natured, you can actually feel that on their body. You can actually feel the heat. And you see it in their muscle tone, or if you have ever been with a cadaver and you look at people who are skinless, then you can actually see the striations quite differently in different people. Like a karma person is like thin and wispy, and a Padma person is a little bit more developed, and a Vajra person is really very chiseled. So, you know, it's a physical form too, and the environment is considered like, have you ever been out on the rolling hills of eastern Kansas, Missouri, or like parts of Nebraska that aren't super flat? It's like that rolling green prairie hills that you imagine. It's just that kind of luscious, sensual kind of beauty. or what is that movie, that Moana movie, you know, where she lays down and she's all green and pretty and rounded? Yeah, it's like that kind of energy. So you can work with this energy with the seed syllable of ni. Ni, ni, ni. Okay? And then the karma dakini is in the north. And she's very busy, like Santa. And Santa's in the north. He probably has lots of green dakinis. Yes. So the seed syllable is sa. So what's really interesting about that seed syllable is sa actually means earth in Tibetan. If I was to just take that one seed syllable, sa actually means earth. But what's interesting about that is that the element is actually considered air or wind. So you see there's some contradiction with like other things. But this northern dakini is speedy. She's fast. She's like blazing